Howdy, welcome back to Wobble Enjoy Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you're a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. I'm going to look at the Canberra Raiders fixture today, and Ricky Stewart in the off-season said that this is the most draw that he has ever seen. Well, let me be the judge of that here today. The Raiders pre-season sees them take on the Penrith Panthers at Shark Park next Saturday. In week number 2, they host the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks at GIO Stadium on a Thursday night. So there's already a short turnaround in the season for the Raiders, playing on a Saturday and then backing up on the Thursday. Now let's have a look at their season proper. They are one of the 4 teams to go to Las Vegas this year, and it is such a massive opportunity for the Raiders to inject a big old fan base, American fan base, into their veins at the Raiders Allegiant Stadium. It's a massive opportunity for the Raiders, and I really hope it goes off successfully for them. They then, like the other 3 teams, have the week off, and round number 2, they're back in action at home against the Brisbane Broncos for Saturday night footy. But then the Raiders find themselves on the road in back-to-back weeks. Match number 1, they play Sunday twilight footy against Manly at 4 Pints Park, and then they travel to Townsville for a Saturday afternoon game. That's 4:30 p.m. Queensland kickoff time. They're back at home against the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks for Thursday night footy. So again, another short-ish turnaround. I don't know if the Raiders will actually leave Saturday night, but at the very least, they will be coming back down to Canberra on the Sunday morning from Townsville to try and get ready for the Cronulla Sharks, who come in on a Thursday night in Canberra. Opposition-wise, that's tough. The Warriors, round 1, with James Fisher-Harris and them being just as hyped as what they will be, that's going to be a very physical battle. But then you have Brisbane, Manly, North Queensland and Cronulla inside the first 5 weeks, and all that travel. Hang on to your hats, Raiders fans. Part 2 for the Canberra Raiders doesn't get any easier because it begins with back-to-back away games. They travel to, of all places, the Northern Territory, Darwin, to play the Parramatta Eels at TO Stadium on a Saturday night. Round number 7, they take on the Gold Coast Titans on the Glitter Strip, and that is a Sunday afternoon game. Round number 8, they're back at home. They take on the Dolphins, and this will be the first ever game the Dolphins will play at GIO Stadium. So that's a bit of a special occasion. Plus, this game in round 8 is a part of Anzac round, Sunday 2 o'clock. Round 9, they are a part of Magic round. They're the last match of the weekend. They're taking on the Melbourne Storm at Suncorp Stadium, Sunday twilight. And round number 10, they're back at home to host the Bulldogs, Saturday 3 p.m. They can beat the teams there. There's a big question mark on Melbourne. But again, it's the travel. You've done what you did in the first 5 weeks, and then you got to go to the Northern Territory, to the Gold Coast, and then to Suncorp to take on the Storm. Ricky Stewart might have been right. We're not done yet. Section 3 for the Canberra Raiders begins with a home game, a Channel 9 Sunday game against the Gold Coast Titans. Round 12 and 13, they're back on the road in back-to-back weeks again, against the New Zealand Warriors. So they're going to New Zealand to take them on during a split round. So Origin stars will be out. So you'd say Mitch Barnett for the Wires, possibly Hudson Young for the Raiders. In round number 13, a couple of days after, or a few days after Origin won in Brisbane, they take on the Eastern Suburbs at Allianz Stadium for Sunday twilight. I reckon Origin representation will happen here. I reckon more so for the Roosters. I think that the Origin Stars will back up and play in this Sunday twilight fixture. Round number 14, they host the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and that is a Sunday 2 o'clock game. And finally, in round 15, they have their first bye of 2025. That would make them one of the last 3 teams of the year to have their first bye, considering the amount of travel that they're doing and considering how young of a squad that they are. Man, that bye needed to come a lot earlier for sure, but they finally get it in round number 15. I'll give you $20 if you guess this correctly. Part 4 for the Canberra Raiders begins with what? Well, in 2025, you're absolutely right. It begins with back-to-back away games for the Canberra Raiders. West Tigers on a Friday night, a couple of days after the Perth Origin game. So whoever plays in that Perth Origin game is not playing in this contest out at Campbelltown Stadium. Round number 17, they're up in the Hunter Valley to take on the Newcastle Knights. Friday night footy. Round number 18, they're back at home again. They take on the Dragons, and this is during a split round. So Origin representation will be happening here for the Canberra Raiders and the St. George Illawarra Dragons. That's Saturday, 5:30 p.m. They then have their second bye of 2025 in round 19. They're on the road a couple more times, but the opposition, they can nab them. They can absolutely nab them, especially if it does turn out that Hudson Young is the only player that is going to represent the Raiders in the Origin arena this year. If this young Raiders team are still alive and kicking in the race to the finals, what does their run to the finals look like? Let's get into it. Round 20 and round 21, the Raiders are at home in back-to-back weeks. They host Parramatta on a Saturday afternoon. They then host the Newcastle Knights for a Sunday afternoon. They zip up to Wollongong to take on the Dragons, Saturday twilight footy. Round 23, they return home to play the Sea Eagles on Friday night football. Then the third and final bye happens for them in round 24. So round 25, they have 3 more rounds to go, and the first cap off the rank is the Penrith Panthers, and they're on the bus to another remote or a remote location again. They're off to play the Panthers at Glen Willow Oval in Mudgee, Friday, 6 p.m. Another pretty awkward bus trip for the Raiders in 2025. Their final home game of the season is against the Tigers in round 26. They take them on Saturday 3 p.m. and the final round of the regular season, they are away. Why wouldn't they be? They're against the Dolphins Sunday 2 p.m. at KO Stadium in Redcliffe. They'll run home to the finals. Besides Manly and the Penrith Panthers, they can get it. I think they're very much a shot at going 4 wins and 2 losses inside this 7-8 week period, or maybe 5 wins and 2 losses in this 7 or 8 week period are the Canberra Raiders, but are they going to have enough steam? The teams that the Canberra Raiders are taking on twice in 2025 actually go in their favour, and it somewhat alleviates the pressure on them with how much travel that they are doing. They take on Manly twice in 2025, and the other teams that they take on twice did not make the top 8, except for the Newcastle Knights. But I think the Raiders can absolutely achieve a majority percentage of victory against the teams that they are taking on twice, maybe except for Manly and maybe except for the Newcastle Knights, who both finished in the 8 last year. But that travel schedule is insane, and I do empathise. I sympathise with Ricky Stewart when he came out and went, it just is a really intense schedule for a young Canberra Raiders team to try and navigate in 2025. But I love the Canberra Raiders. I hope they do make the 8. I was born in Canberra, so I've got a massive, massive soft spot for him. Thank you, everybody, for your continuous support. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Adios.